I was a Navy lieutenant stationed in Vietnam when my patrol boat was sent on what seemed like a routine river mission. What we discovered in those dark waters still haunts me 50 years later. Something ancient was hunting us. This is my real story of what happened during a classified river patrol mission in the Mekong Delta. The military covered it up for decades, but the truth behind the missing soldiers and abandoned boats was far more terrifying than enemy fire. We weren't just fighting the Viet Cong. We encountered something that had been defending those waters long before any war began. What I saw was terrifying. The shocking truth behind what's really lurking beneath Vietnam's rivers. We found evidence of missing soldiers who vanished without a trace. This strange creature with red eyes had been covered up by the military for years. I was deployed on a secret mission that became a classified encounter with forces beyond our understanding. The river remembers everything, and it's not finished with us yet. Lieutenant Harris survived to tell the story, but at what cost? The diesel fumes mix with jungle rot, creating a smell that sticks to the back of your throat like tar. I adjust my helmet strap for the 100th time today, watching steam rise from the Vam Kodong River like ghostly fingers reaching for something they'll never touch. 8 months in country, and I've learned to trust my gut over my eyes. Every shadow could hide a sniper. Every ripple could mean death. But ghosts? Village superstition doesn't stop bullets. Lieutenant Harris, Chief Petty Officer Nguyen approaches, his weathered face unreadable as always. Vietnamese guide, been working with American forces since '65. Good man, knows these waters better than the fish. Intelligence reports enemy activity upstream, supply boats moving at night. I nod, checking my watch. 2 p.m. We'll have maybe 6 hours of daylight to patrol before the real hunting begins. Ensign Miller finishes cleaning his M16 for the 3rd time today. Kid's nervous, but his instincts are solid. Saved our asses twice already this month. Corpsman Davis hums some Motown tune while organizing his medical kit with practiced efficiency. Standard intercept mission, I tell them, my voice cutting through the humid air. Find Charlie's supply line, disrupt operations, report back to base. Simple. The boat rocks gently beneath my boots as I check our twin .50 caliber machine guns. Fresh oil gleams on every moving part. PBR 724 has been my home for 3 months now. Steel, diesel fuel, ammunition, and trained men. Everything else is just noise. Miller looks up from his rifle. Sir, what about the reports? Other patrols finding empty boats? Probably booby traps, I say, though something cold touches my spine when I think about those radio transmissions. Charlie's getting creative with their psychological warfare. Nguyen says nothing, but I catch something flickering in his dark eyes when he studies our route on the map. The jungle sounds never stop. Chattering monkeys, exotic birds, insects buzzing in frequencies that make your teeth ache. But underneath it all, there's something else. A silence that doesn't belong. The water looks darker today. 3 hours into patrol, we find the first sampan. It drifts empty near a bend where the river narrows between twisted mangrove roots, their branches reaching into the water like skeletal hands. No bodies, no debris, just fresh blood staining the wooden hull in patterns that make my skin crawl. Jesus Christ, Miller whispers, leaning over the side to get a better look. The gouges along the boat's sides aren't from bullets or shrapnel. Too deep, too clean. Long parallel scratches that look almost like claws. But that's impossible. No animal in these waters could do damage like this. Probably hit a submerged log, I tell Miller, though the words taste like lies. Secure it with rope, we'll tow it back. Nguyen examines the blood without speaking, his weathered fingers tracing the strange marks. When he looks up, his face has gone pale. As we secure the abandoned sampan, the jungle falls completely silent. No birds, no insects, no monkey chatter, just dead air pressing against my eardrums like diving too deep underwater. The hair on my neck stands up, and for one impossible moment, I swear I hear something large moving through the water beneath our hull. Then the sounds return all at once, like someone switched on a radio. "Let's move," I say, my voice rougher than intended. "We've got a patrol to finish." But my hands shake slightly as I grip the boat's controls, and the water ahead looks darker than before. By sunset, we found 2 more abandoned boats. Each one bears those same impossible claw marks, each one empty of bodies, cargo still secured beneath blood-stained canvas. Miller keeps glancing over his shoulder, and Davis has stopped humming entirely. The radio crackles with static whenever we try to report our findings. "Firebase danger. This is River Rat 724. I speak into the handset, fighting through the interference. "We've recovered 3 abandoned enemy vessels. Request instructions." Static, white noise that sounds almost like whispers. "Firebase danger, do you copy?" Finally, a tinny voice breaks through. "Continue patrol as assigned, River Rat. Report back at 6 a.m. The transmission cuts off abruptly, leaving us alone with the gathering darkness. I run through tactical possibilities while we drift between the mangrove shadows. New enemy weapon, experimental sabotage techniques, psychological warfare designed to spook American patrols. All reasonable explanations that don't account for one thing. Professional soldiers don't just vanish without leaving traces of struggle. "Sir," Miller's voice cracks slightly. "What if it's not Charlie?" "Then what is it, son?" He doesn't answer, but Nguyen crosses himself and mutters something in Vietnamese that sounds like a prayer. Near midnight, our spotlight catches movement in the water 50 meters ahead. Not the ripples of fish or debris, but something massive surfacing deliberately. The beam illuminates a humanoid silhouette, just long enough for me to register elongated limbs and what looks like scaled skin before it disappears beneath the murky surface. "Did you see that?" Miller whispers. My mouth goes dry. "See what?" "That thing in the water. It was watching us." Davis aims his spotlight at the spot, but the beam reveals only dark water that seems to absorb light rather than reflect it. The engine coughs once, twice, then resumes its steady rhythm. "Nothing there," I say, but my voice sounds hollow even to me. Nguyen speaks quietly. "Manuk, water spirit, very old, very angry." "That's enough," I snap. "We're not here to chase ghost stories." But as I say it, something brushes against our hull from below. The boat shudders, metal groaning against something that shouldn't exist in these waters. The thing follows us. I know this because our wake changes. Instead of the normal V pattern behind our boat, the water churns in a wider disturbance, as if something large swims parallel to our course. Davis keeps the spotlight trained on the anomaly, but the beam shows only darkness that seems to move independently of the current. Every military manual, every training exercise tells me to complete the mission. Report unusual activity through proper channels. Maintain unit cohesion. But gut instinct, the same survival mechanism that's kept me alive through 8 months of jungle warfare, screams that we're dealing with something beyond standard operating procedures. The radio crackles to life. "River Rat 724, proceed to grid coordinates 3-7 Alpha. Investigate reports of enemy activity at Riverside Village." I could refuse. Cite mechanical problems. Request immediate extraction. Instead, I hear myself acknowledging the orders. "Copy, firebase danger, proceeding to 3-7 Alpha." The decision feels like stepping off a cliff into black water. Miller grabs my arm. "Lieutenant, maybe we should..." The boat lurches violently to starboard. Something massive impacts our hull from below, and the smell of brackish water mixed with decay fills the air. Davis's spotlight swings wildly, illuminating nothing but churning water and foam that glows with an unnatural phosphorescence. "Engine's running rough," Miller reports, his voice tight with fear. "It's following us," Nguyen says quietly. "Manuk does not like strangers in its domain." I plot a course toward the village coordinates, my hands trembling slightly on the controls. Whatever waits in the darkness ahead, we're committed now. The current seems to pull us forward with unusual strength, as if something wants us to reach our destination. Behind us, the water continues to churn, and occasionally, I catch glimpses of something pale and wrong breaking the surface before disappearing again. Can you feel it too? That cold touch on your neck when you read alone at night? Some say the Manuk still hunts in waters far from Vietnam. Have you ever seen something that shouldn't exist just beneath the surface? Share your encounter below, if you dare admit it happened. The village appears deserted at first glance. Bamboo huts dark and silent along the riverbank, fishing nets hanging like spider webs in the moonlight. But as we approach the dock, Nguyen starts speaking rapidly in Vietnamese, his voice tight with fear. "Manuk," he keeps repeating, pointing at carved symbols on wooden posts. Spiral patterns that seem to writhe in our spotlight beam, twisting and turning, even though they're carved into solid wood. "What's he saying?" Miller asks. Before I can answer, the water around our boat begins to churn. Something rises from the depths with deliberate, terrifying purpose. The surface breaks 20 feet away, and what emerges defies every rational thought I've ever had. Humanoid but wrong. Elongated limbs covered in scales that shift color like oil on water. Eyes that reflect our spotlight beam like a crocodile's. Miller screams. The creature's first attack comes without warning. One moment, Miller is securing our mooring line. The next, he's being dragged toward the water's edge by clawed hands that seem to appear from nowhere. I empty half a magazine into the churning darkness, muzzle flashes illuminating glimpses of scaled flesh and that impossible face. "You're firing at shadows!" Davis shouts, grabbing my rifle barrel. "Miller slipped and fell. There's nothing there." But I saw those claws, heard that inhuman shriek that made my bones ache. Miller surfaces 20 meters from shore, alive but changed. His eyes roll white, showing only the bloodshot vessels beneath. And when he speaks, the voice isn't his. It's something older, speaking in a dialect Nguyen recognizes with growing horror. "Kan Bao." Miller's mouth forms words he doesn't understand. Warning. "Didi, leave now." But his face wears an expression of absolute terror, as if he's trapped inside his own body while something else controls his voice. Tears stream down his cheeks as he speaks words that aren't his own. "What's happening to him?" Davis checks his medical bag with shaking hands. Nguyen's voice barely registers above a whisper. "The Manuk." It speaks through him now. It warns us to leave before. He trails off, unable to finish. Before what? Miller's head snaps toward me with unnatural speed. When he speaks again, his voice carries an authority that doesn't belong to a 19-year-old kid from Ohio. "You bring death to sacred water. Your metal boats poison the current. Your war wakes things that should sleep." The water around us begins to glow with that same phosphorescence I noticed earlier. More shapes move beneath the surface, larger ones, moving with purpose and intelligence. I understand then that we're not fighting an enemy. We're trespassing in something's domain, and it's been patient with us until now. Nguyen finally explains what the villagers tried to tell their American advisors years ago. "The river spirit protects these waters from outsiders," he says, his voice barely audible over the sound of something large moving through the water beneath our hull. "French colonists,
Japanese soldiers, now Americans. All who bring violence to the sacred river join its underwater court. The carved symbols aren't decorative, they're warnings. Territorial markers for something that's defended this river since before recorded history. Your war woke it up, Nguyen continues. All the death, all the blood flowing into the water. It doesn't distinguish between sides, it only sees intruders. We try to retreat downstream, but the engine coughs and dies completely this time. The current flows backward, pulling us toward deeper water despite physics and common sense. Davis starts documenting everything in his medical log with manic precision. Pulse rates, symptoms of hysteria, temperature readings, clinging to scientific method while reality dissolves around us. The creature surfaces again, fully visible in our emergency flare's red light. 8 feet tall, covered in scales that seem to absorb rather than reflect illumination. Its face is almost human, but wrong in every proportion. 2 wide mouth filled with rows of needle teeth, eyes that hold intelligence older than civilization. Miller begs us to kill him before the thing takes complete control. I can feel it inside my head, he sobs. It's showing me things. The others who came before, they're all down there, still alive, still serving. When I raise my sidearm, Davis tackles me. You can't! Rules of engagement, military justice. In that moment of hesitation, something massive impacts our hull from below. The boat tilts dangerously as water pours through a widening hole in the metal. I have seconds to choose. Attempt to save my remaining crew by fighting something beyond conventional weapons, or accept that some battles can't be won with military training and firepower. The smell of decay grows stronger. More shapes move beneath the water, human forms that were once soldiers like us, now serving something ancient and hungry.
Miller surfaces one final time, but his voice is his own again. Lieutenant, it doesn't want to kill us. It wants to recruit us. The other patrols, the missing crews, they're down there, still alive, still serving its underwater army. The revelation changes everything. This isn't a predator hunting for food. It's a commander conscripting soldiers for a war that began long before Vietnam and will continue long after. The choice isn't between life and death. It's between freedom and eternal service to something that views human warfare as a minor disturbance in its timeless vigil. The creature emerges completely from the river, standing on our partially submerged deck, with water streaming from scales that seem to absorb our emergency flare's red light. Up close, the wrongness is overwhelming. Skin that shifts between green and black, like infected flesh. Claws designed for gripping rather than slashing. And that face. Almost human, but stretched beyond recognition. When it speaks, the voice comes from everywhere at once, resonating through the water itself. You bring death to sacred water. You join the current, or current takes you. Davis empties his medical bag, desperately preparing stimulants to keep us conscious if we're dragged underwater. Nguyen recites prayers in 3 languages, hoping something will provide protection against this ancient thing. But I realize that conventional tactics are useless. This isn't an enemy to be defeated. It's a force of nature to be appeased or escaped. The boat tilts at a 45-degree angle now, more water pouring through the growing hole in our hull. Emergency equipment floats past my boots as I struggle to maintain footing on the slick deck. Miller surfaces one final time, his voice clear and urgent. Lieutenant, listen to me. It doesn't want to destroy us. It wants to use us. The missing crews, they're all down there, still breathing somehow, still following orders, but not our orders anymore. His revelation hits like a physical blow. The empty boats we found weren't the result of attacks. They were recruitment drives. The Manuok doesn't kill soldiers, it converts them, adds them to an underwater army that's been growing for decades, maybe centuries. How many are down there? I shout over the sound of rushing water. Hundreds, Miller gasps. French Foreign Legion, Japanese Imperial Navy, ARVN River Patrol, Marines, Navy SEALs. All of them still serving, but serving it now. The creature steps closer, its claws scraping against metal with sounds that make my teeth ache. When it reaches toward me, I can see intelligence in those ancient eyes. Not animal cunning, but strategic thinking honed over millennia of warfare. Choose, it says, and somehow I understand that this is the first choice it's offered anyone in a very long time. Join willingly, or join unwillingly, but you will join. Behind it, shapes rise from the water. Human forms in various uniforms, spanning decades of conflict, their eyes glowing with the same phosphorescence as the river itself. All of them waiting for my decision. The boat shudders and begins its final descent toward the river bottom, taking us down to join an army that fights in wars most people never knew existed. I wake up on a hospital bed in Saigon, IV tubes in my arms, and doctors asking about hallucinations, combat fatigue, possible drug exposure. White sheets, antiseptic smell, ceiling fans turning lazy circles overhead. The world of the living. They found me floating unconscious near a burned patrol boat, the only survivor of what official reports call enemy action, resulting in total unit loss. But I remember choosing differently. I remember detonating our fuel reserves rather than join the Manuok's underwater court. Remember the creature's roar of frustration as flames consumed the water's surface. The explosion should have killed me. Maybe it did. 6 months later, back in civilian life, I can't swim in any body of water deeper than a bathtub. Every river, every lake, every swimming pool might hide something ancient and patient. I've tried telling psychiatrists, tried explaining to other veterans, but the words sound insane, even to me. Sometimes, in crowded restaurants or busy streets, I catch glimpses of faces I recognize from that night. Davis adjusting his glasses while reading a newspaper. Miller ordering coffee with that same nervous laugh. Others who should be dead. They look exactly the same. Haven't aged a day. And when our eyes meet, they smile with expressions that aren't quite human anymore. They're still recruiting.
Last week, I received new orders. The paperwork came through proper military channels, official seals, correct signatures, everything legitimate. Report to Riverine Patrol training for fresh recruits heading to Vietnam. But something about the paper feels damp, and when I hold it to the light, I swear I can see water stains that spell out words in Vietnamese. Ma Nuc, the same phrase Wayne whispered before everything went wrong. The river remembers, and apparently, it's not finished with me yet. Some wars never truly end. They just find new soldiers to feed their endless hunger. The river remembers, and it's still calling. What do you think Lieutenant Harris should do with these new orders? Subscribe for more military supernatural horror stories, and share your theories about what really lurks beneath the water. Because somewhere, in rivers around the world, ancient guardians are still recruiting.